Hello, everyone. My name is Arshi, and I am the events director for Photosoc this year. For anyone who's not familiar with Photosoc, we're a photography club offering a wide range of services from film processing to studio bookings and so much more. Our executive family is of 25 students, and we're all dedicated to offering our members the best quality of services. Our services are currently open and memberships are available to access them. Tonight's event is a portrait workshop led by our very own Chen. Sean is an extremely talented photographer who will now walk you through the how to's of taking a beautiful portrait. After our session here is complete, the remainder of the presentation will be given through an additional Zoom link, and I'll post that in the chat. And that's where we hope to see you. All right, Sean, take it over.
Awesome. So it's gonna be a tight schedule, so we'll get moving. So welcome everyone to the second ever portrait workshop from me, and I'm super excited to have you. It's a pleasure. Let's get straight into it. Whoops, there we go. So the basics. So this is about me. I'm a 20-year-old Taiwanese photographer and videographer who was born and raised in Bangkok, Thailand. I'm currently a third-year commerce student at UBC, specializing in business marketing. And I bought my own camera in 2018, and since then have shot a variety of events and products and fashion and travel and etc. But honestly, nothing beats the beauty and fun of shooting portraits. You can follow my socials on the right-hand side, directed by Sean, and featuring my cute little babies, these three Dachshunds. Awesome. All right, so this is not another photography 101 course. You will not learn the basics, the ISO, the aperture, the shutter speed. This is not what we're not going to talk about today. Because essentially we can learn all that online and they're taught perfectly. That's how I learned my basics of photography. In this workshop, we're going to focus on how to work with models, how to monetize your passion. And I honestly want to focus on these because it's something that isn't taught enough about. And I want you guys to know these because I wish someone told me when I first started out. All right. So today's agenda, why portraits, how I started and why you should too, a shooting rundown. We're gonna go through like the pre-planning phase, how to work with people, and editing. We're also gonna talk about how to get paid for your photography passion. So it's gonna be how to start your own photography business in 2021. Watch till the end for the Q&A and some bonus content with UBC Photosoc's newly launched magazine, Raw Files. All right. So why portraits? Um, Essentially, portraits are just working with people and taking photos of people. And so the first point I'd like to make of why I started portraits is honestly the character. Forming new relationships is perhaps the most rewarding part of portrait photography. You can learn so much about the world through the people you meet. Every person I shoot, I always like to get to know them better. And it honestly opens up a whole new world because everyone has such different backgrounds. And without ever leaving perhaps one area of your place, you can learn so much about like the whole entire world. So that's the first point. The second point is the challenges. When you're working with people, people are really unpredictable. So every single shoot is different. And I enjoy adapting to every situation. And I feel satisfied when me and my model create something truly wonderful. It's a collaborative experience, and when you overcome a challenge or when you overcome an obstacle during a shoot to create something truly like wonderful that will last forever online or in paper, it's just amazing. Lastly is the chapters. So a portrait is a slice of one's life, and to be able to capture the moment and look back at it in the future is honestly what makes portrait photography such a reflective process. From all the shoots I have, my first one dating back to like 2018 when I first bought my camera, and I was looking back at it the other day. It honestly brings back so much memories because every time you look at a photo, you think back to the experiences, the adventure that went behind that photo, and the emotions that you were expressing through in those photos. So I think honestly, portraits just brings out that nostalgic feeling where you can go back in the future. Yeah. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Just give me like a thumbs down, but thumbs up if it's going so far so good. Awesome. Let's keep going. All right, types of portraiture. This is pretty self-explanatory, but the definition of portraiture is simply a pictorial representation of a person, usually showing the face. How I understand it is an image that focuses on the person. For me, what distinguishes it from other photography is because it's an artistic process and we need to attempt to balance between satisfying yourself while also satisfying the model, as opposed to other photography where you are your own biggest competitor. So for landscape, you could sit at a mountains for hours and you only have yourself to worry about. But during portraits, it's important to keep in mind that both parties agree and like accept what we create, because it's honestly the most collaborative process of portrait of photography. Yeah, so let's go through a few. These are my photos, but let's take a few of what portrait photography entails. So there are traditional photography, portrait photography, which is like those passport photos one, the pink one you see there. There's an environmental one, which is the ones that people are situated in their own surroundings, in their environment. There's a surreal one, obviously, like this explosion thingy. I don't know how they made that, but definitely through, I hope, Photoshop. So it's a surreal kind of look. The fourth one is street. So this is capturing the candid moments in these shots uh, in the city environment or like something like that. The last one is fashion. Obviously, I included these for you guys. Everyone loves a naked Justin Bieber and his Calvin Kleins. So this is the fashion type of photography. Yeah, so these are just a few portrait photography types that we encounter on a daily basis. Awesome. I like to point out there's also another area of portraits that I like to distinguish, which is candid poses, candid versus pose photos. So on the left-hand side, you can see it's a candid pose. This is a photo of my friend Lisha. So candid poses are essentially true images that are organic in the moment. So it essentially captures the natural emotions. And as a juxtaposed to a posed photo, it's more constructed and more calculated. And it's where you, the photographer, direct the model to capture a certain mood. Yeah, so as you can see here, one is, so the story behind the candid photo is when she was holding her hand up to her head, it reminded me of Baby Shark. So I was just like singing the Baby Shark tune, like Baby Shark do 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 do, and that's honestly what made her laugh. So it's truly a candid expression. I was able to click my camera just in time to capture that laugh, and yeah, that's literally how this photo came about. Awesome. All right, getting on to the shooting rundown. So pre-planning. Pre-planning is definitely as important as the actual photo shoot. And here's why. It gives you a clear idea to work towards and make the photo shoot more effective, and also helps the model better express her poses and expressions. So I want you to keep in mind that pre-planning is a collaborative process, and you want to make sure that you and the model are working together to create and to plan for this photo shoot. And what are the ways that we can do that? Let's take a look. All right. So first off, what I do is I create a mood board. And what a mood board does essentially is offer a creative goal that helps clarify and elevate the quality of the shooting process. So on the right-hand side, you can see a mood board I made for a recent beach photo shoot that I was going to plan on doing. And so this is an example of a Pinterest mood board that I made. And there's a lot of places where you can find inspiration to make these mood boards. First off is Instagram. Everyone uses it, and there's so many top-notch content on there for you to collect. Another is Pinterest, which you see here. It's so useful because you can search by like categories, and it's just amazing. It blew my mind. Uh, Another is online magazines. Not many people use this because it's not as relevant these days, but I think if you dig deep enough, they have so much top-notch content that amazing photographers don't post online. So I would definitely send you guys a few links of the online magazines I check out. So stay tuned. And lastly, is the surroundings. So whenever you're just walking out and about, you might see something interesting. For me, it's like I once saw like a dumpster and I just really got intrigued by it. So I stood there and like spent 10 minutes just taking photos of a dumpster. That's for just to keep in my photo albums. Yeah, I'm not like anything weird or anything, but it's definitely a place where you can find inspiration. Um, so where do you build your mood boards? One of them is Instagram collections. You can use the save button and just save a collection of photos that represent the idea you're going for. Another is Pinterest boards, which is the one I showing on my right. And the lastly is photo albums with the photos that you took in your surroundings and whatever you see throughout your entire life. Yeah. So that's the first step, creating a mood board. Move on. Connecting with models. All right. This is the scary part that people are intimidated by when they first start out doing portraits. So connecting with models are basically finding someone that has a similar creative direction as you. And it's really simple. Honestly, just don't be afraid to message people. As you can see here on my right, this is a simple DM that I send a lot of people when I want to work with them. It's super clean, super precise. Don't need to elaborate on like who are you or like what you're interested or like what school you go to. Because honestly, they just want to work with your work, right? So places I find these kind of people who would want to work with me is essentially friends and family. First off, they would always love to help out your passion. Secondly, is Instagram hashtags. So let's say Vancouver, right? I would search up hashtag Vancouver models and then scroll through them and see which person fits the mood board you're going for. Once you see that person, simply message them out of the blue with the simple message as shown on the right and hope they respond. 90% of the time, they won't respond, so don't get your hopes up. But you only need that 10% of people who respond to you to get that shoot, and it really motivates you when that happens. Lastly is Facebook groups. As the one that Photosoc has, there's a lot of creative people in there, models and photographers both. So definitely go check that out. Sorry. So how to connect with them? Keep it simple, like I said before. Also have a portfolio. If the model sees your DM, checks out your portfolio on Instagram, and doesn't see any of your photography work, that is creepy. Like I would not like talk to this person because it's just weird that you are a photographer but you don't post your work online for people to see. They might think something different. So definitely have a portfolio. Build up that portfolio. And yeah, lastly, just be clear and concise creatively. Hi, I want to shoot this. Are you down? If you are, where should we meet up? And let's do it. So it's really simple. And I do suggest that you reach out to models who are starting off as well, because most likely they're looking for photos to promote their own portfolio, to build their own database. So they would definitely say yes. As to the photo I show on this page, this is a friend of mine, Z, and literally I sent this exact DM to her, and when I first came back to Thailand and after stay at UBC for like 2 years, and it's just amazing to see how much we've grown because I've shot with her multiple times now, and she's become a close friend of mine. All right. So, and then locations. This is equally as important as well. When you're first starting off, start shooting around in your area. And it's even better if you have natural lighting. So I want to ask you guys now, do you guys recognize what that photo, which dorm in UBC that photo is from? If you have, just feel free to shout out your answer. All right. So I guess nobody took a guess. That's all good. It's all good. So this
we got some answers in the chat actually. We
oh,
got
okay.
Marine.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is it Ponderosa?
It's Marine. It's Marine.
Oh, it's Marine Drive.
Yeah,
okay, congrats to Emily.
So it's a 4-bedroom Marine, and it's tiny. And I don't know if you guys been to one, but it's tiny as yeah. Basically, this is the corresponding photo I got from this place. Looks like that. So I don't know if you can imagine like how the heck that's possible from that little dorm room, but I'm also blown away by making the most of what we have, right? So going back to curating locations, where to find places, definitely your surroundings would be the first place to look for, because portraits you focus on a person as opposed to location. But once you're going out of your comfort zone, I would definitely recommend going on Instagram. They have a lot of good photos that were taken at amazing places, save that as well. And also Facebook. People share places all the time, and definitely keep in mind that it's not essentially like a good or bad place. Like a dumpster might be a bad place for a like a headshot for a passport, but it would be good for a street photo shoot. So one place is not inherently bad or good. It just depends what mood you're going for. Some great places that I shot at, my room, basically, my friend's apartment, and at a park. So the reason these are great places because it's free. It's free, and the photos turn out amazing as well. So definitely go check that out. One suggestion for you guys is to restrain from spending a lot of money for a studio if it's your first time shooting portraits, because I can guarantee you're gonna spend 80% of the time just figuring out how the lights work, and that will not be worth your money. So definitely focus on the natural sunlight and whatever you can work with. Awesome. Let's keep moving. All right, so during the shoot, this is the juicy part. During the shoot, I find that the best photos I've taken are the ones that the model felt most comfortable and expressing themselves. My priority for each shoot is to make the model feel comfortable. That includes things such as playing music, get to know them, and taking breaks. And I find the best way to do this is also to treat them as a friend. Don't see them as like a goddess or like a god. Like, you don't want to put them on a pedestal because that's gonna make you more nervous. Treat them as another friend. You're just shooting on the go, and it's just having a fun time. Don't be intimidated. Creating is fun and experimental, and always be supportive, understanding, and a positive encourager. So I will explain these steps in the next slide, but I want you guys to keep in mind that portrait photography is one of the most intimate fields of photography. You're working with two people. You're working with another person. So for them to feel safe and supported, they are able to express their true selves in the photo. And if not, it's going to be a really, really rough time. Yep. So how to do this? First off, I would always play music and prepare water for the model. Playing music always gets people in the mood. It just feels fun and light. Like, you just feel pumped up whenever you hear music. Also prepare water. That's always a nice gesture to do. Secondly, is to constantly show the model the photos. When you're taking portrait photography, every, let's say, 10 to 20 shots, I would show the model how she's doing or how he's doing. I would show them the camera, and then it just gives them an understanding of what they need to change, what they're doing well, and it motivates them to see how they look in the photo. If someone's taking a photo of you and you don't see the photos ever during the entire shoot, like, it's gonna be so awkward and so frustrating. So always show them the photo. Thirdly, tell them what works and what doesn't. If a model poses something well, tell her to work around that pose and see if she can try something that's similar to that pose, or even like refer back to your mood boards to give her some guidelines. And if something doesn't work well, phrase it in a way that's like positive criticism. So like, tell her, for essentially, hey, this pose is really cool, but can we try this? So I would never say that it looks bad, because if you say it looks bad, it just diminishes their confidence. Like, boom, like, it's crazy. Always phrase it positively. The fourth step is to show a few photos to help guide their pose. That's where we refer back to the mood board. Like I said earlier, you can essentially tell them to copy the exact same pose, and it's helpful for them because they know exactly what to do. Lastly is to take a break when needed. Shooting is a very, very tiresome process, more so on the model side. As a photographer, we just click the button. Like, our finger might ache for like 2 minutes, but that's about it. For them, they're using their entire body. So I really, really understand where they're going through. So always ask them if they need a break and if they're feeling comfortable at all times. Yeah. Any questions on how to direct these people? We can save them to the last, actually, to the Q&A session later. All right, let's move on. So keep in mind, when you're shooting, don't ever limit yourself. Guidelines are there for you to understand, so you can take a break from them. Be open to trying things out, and don't let your fear of failure stop you from taking your best photos. one way I like to do this is to keep one direct main light source. This is most often than not the sun. I always love working with natural lighting. And when I'm shooting with the sun, I like to have the models do three kind of poses. One is to shoot with the sun. So my sun here right now is on my right side. So I would be facing the sun. So my whole face would be lit up. Another way would be 45. So I'm halfway between the sun and the shadow part of the world. And this would give like harsh shadows on your face, which gives entirely different look. And the last one would be against the sun, which would be backlit. So these tips are what I would focus on when I'm first starting out photography, because you can learn so much of how lighting works just by turning your model around like a little bit. And it's amazing learning process, and it takes a long time to master. I definitely have not mastered it yet, but it's a good place to start to get amazing photos. All right. Post-production editing. Okay. So editing is the cherry on top. It's the finishing touch on your photo. Again, editing depends on the mood that you are trying to go for in your photo. So trust me, you start experimenting with all sorts of edits, but over time, your creative vision will start to be more refined, and that's when your style comes out. So what I like to think of editing is essentially editing is like learning vocabulary. So turning the exposure, the highlights, the shadows, these are words that you are building in your database. And then you want to create a story. So with all these words, you're trying to write a paragraph or like a novel. So when you edit your photo, all these little vocabs will come together and create the mood that you're going for. So it helps you deliver your message. Some of the apps I use are Lightroom CC and Photoshop. So I'll show you guys how my style came about. Yeah, just take some time to digest this. All right. So when I first started off, I was a really happy dude. I really love those amazing colors, like this high saturation. I just think it really looked cool. Like when I first started off photography. Then I transitioned into making my photos look really matte. So if you can see in the second two photos, they're really like the blacks are really like matte look. And then as you can see, progressing, I went through a lot of phases, happy, sad, and it reflects in my photos as well. The happy ones are the bright pinkish ones on the far left side. And in the middle, we got that green, like angsty look. I don't know what happened. I think it was like exam season or something, but yeah. And then towards right now, what I'm shooting, it's more of like the natural look, perhaps with more contrast, make it look more moody, but definitely retaining the colors that look natural in real life. Yeah. So I want to say that your style develops throughout time. I always thought that I'm set with this style forever. For example, the angsty one, I was like, damn, like I'm gonna grow myself as a photographer to be known as that angsty green vibe look photographer. But in a few weeks, I really got bored of it. So your style changes all the time, and that's what I want you to keep in mind. It's a exploring process, and it's all about trying new things out. Okay. One thing I would focus on if I were to talk about editing would be the tone curve. So it's one of the most powerful tools I use when editing. So the tone curve represents all the tones in your image, and learning how to use it takes you a step above the other photographers. So if you look in the graph here, on the left point on the very bottom controls the dark point of the photo. The middle controls the middle point, and the right controls the brightest area. So for the dark parts of this photo would be behind her thigh in the really shadowy area of this image. The mid-tone would probably be the walls. You can see that it's really gray, or the stairs as well. Those are the midpoints of the photo. And on the right side, the very bright area would be her shirt. That's like the brightest parts of the image. As you can see behind this graph, there are those spiky things. I don't know what you call it, but I call it the spiky things. So there's a lot of spiky things towards the dark and mid-tone area. And you can see that's the case in this photo because this photo is not that bright. The only bright parts are the shirt. So the majority of the photos are in that dark and mid-tone area. So when you are editing these points, you can adjust the points individually, but keep in mind that when you move, let's say the dark one up, the other ones will move as well. So this is something I'll show you later on when we do the live editing towards the end of this presentation. All right. All right, getting paid for this photography passion. Fun. Everyone loves money, so y'all better listen up. All right, so getting paid. Starting out, you have to do some free work. I'm not gonna lie, the first like 100 shoots I did, pro bono, nothing, zero kashing. It's all about expanding your network and building a portfolio by collaborating with models. So essentially, you want to network with other portrait photographers and reach out to potential clients. I'll literally tell you the 3 steps I did to kind of get my first gig. First step, I reached out to a ton of people, got like 1 reply. Okay, fine, that's great. Let's work with that person. Once I got that 1 reply, that's the person I work with. And then with that photo, I posted on Instagram, and that's like the basis of my foundation. And not only is working with other people building your portfolio, it also expands your network in the sense that they can keep you in mind. So whenever they need a photographer or their friend needs a photographer, they know who to go to. And yeah, the last step is basically maintaining this this rhythm and this practice so that more people know you and your work becomes better, and you have like a gigantic dictionary of photos you can show people when you're trying to pitch yourself. Yeah, so that's like the gist of it. It sounds really simple, and at first I thought it was like, no way, that can't be it. Like I gotta make contracts and all that. But honestly, when you start out, just do it and learn on the go. That's literally how I did it. So if like a scrawny Asian kid like me can do it, I'm sure anyone else can do it as well. Yeah. So you might be wondering, how much should I charge for a photo shoot? What you can do is to survey the prices range of your local portrait photographers. Again, use the hashtags, find portrait photographers in your area, and record and ask them how much they charge. I would definitely charge like 20% below what they're charging, just because we're starting out and you want people to come to you because of price and because of work as well. Make sure to record all your business transactions, because it's important to look at what shoots turn out well and how your price range goes and varies between each project. I talk about more about monetizing your passion in my YouTube, directed by Sean. So I'll definitely link that for you guys to check it out. Okay. All right, this is Raw Files. This is the new magazine that UBC Photosoc just came out with, and their current theme is black and white. So we're going to talk about portraits specifically in the black and white world. So black and white is the lack of color. So that means the only source is the brightness and highlights and midtones and shadows. So essentially, when you're working with this, I really like to create specific shadows to accentuate the curves and edges. If you look at the photo on the right, the very bottom right corner photo, you can see that there's a clear shadow that goes right across her chest. And I feel like that really just frames her lower half of the body really well, because it shows, like, accentuates the curves and edges. So what I want you to focus on when you're looking to shoot black and white photos is definitely use shadows, even underexposure photos, so that you can keep the model in that like mysterious look, or it just makes everything look more, like it pops out more. What black and white photo does as well is it's emotion centric. So with the lack of colors, you only focus on the person as the person in the photo. So for me, that's the emotions that they express in their face. So in the middle photo, you can see that she's giving that subtle like spexy look. I don't know what look that is, but to me that's like, you know. So black and white photos are more intimate. So they're focused on the expression and poise of the model. So a good way to do this is frame the subject tightly within the photo to feel more personal. So if we look back at this one, let's take a brief look at this. So this Leisha was framed really tight in this photo, and I purposely did that because I wanted to focus on her expression in the photo. So obviously in the first one it's posed, but you can see in her eyes, like, for me it just really hits a point in me that feels really intimate, and it looks like she's really connecting with you. And in the second one as well, it's a more candid pose, and yeah, the black and white focuses in on the model, and you can see that everything just centers around her. In this next one, it's a picture of Nicole. She's also a model in Vancouver, and a picture of her and her cat. This is a really intimate moment. So the story behind this is that we weren't planned out on shooting her and her cat, but when I first got there, I was getting to know her, and I found out how close she was to her cat. And then I suggested that, hey, why not do something with your loved ones, right? So we tried things out, and these two photos really stuck to me because it's just the way that they hug. And then you can see like the cheek to cheek. That really just brings out that warmth feeling of like love and family and the admiration you have for your pets. So the essential point about black and white in this photo specifically, the chair was really vibrant, and I didn't want that to take away from her and the cat, right? So that's why it makes my decision on making black and white a lot easier, because I really just wanted to focus on the model. Yeah, so that's essentially what I focus on when I shoot black and white photography. Whew, I think I blasted through that. We're already at the end. That's crazy. So yeah, I'm more than happy to chat about photography, life, and everything in between. Follow me on my socials, directed by Sean. I have a YouTube channel where I'm posting tips and behind the scenes as well. So follow me there. And yeah, I think it's time for Q&A. I'm not sure what they have in mind for me, but anyone can help me out here?
Yeah, Sean, you can do the live editing if you would like.
Okay.
And the Q&A. So whatever you feel like.
Okay, cool. So I'll do the live editing. Let me just stop sharing for a sec. Okay, give me 1 second. So how much time do I have left?
You technically have 15 minutes, but we're relatively flexible, so
Okay.
use as much time as you need.
Yeah, so I'll just go through a bit of the live editing, and then we'll go on to the Q&A. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Awesome. So this is okay, let's just share my screen again. Adobe Lightroom. Can you guys see this? Yes, no, maybe so. Yeah? Okay, cool. So this is the photo we saw on the presentation. And then there's a lot of stuff here, simple stuff you can learn online. Lots of other stuff here. We won't care about that. So actually, let's just close it. It doesn't distract us. Oops. Okay, this is what we want to focus on. This is the tone curve. Yeah. I think, did I mean point curve or tone curve? I'm not sure. But essentially here's the pointy things, and these are the parts of the brightness in the photo. So let's just reset this. Okay, so this is what the photo looks like without the point curve, and it looks really contrasty because I did put other adjustments here as well. What I like to do when I first start off is to put 3 points. So 1, 2, 3. And what that does is that you can essentially create an S-curve. And the S-curve is really popular among fashion photography because it just brings out that brightness and that darkness in the brightest and darkest parts of the photo. So here's the darkest parts. I hope that shows you that difference. And here's the brightest part, her shirt. So you want to focus on how her shirt gets brighter. Yeah. So for this photo, I want to go for that matte black look. So let's reset that. So for matte black look, we want to focus on the bottom section. So I'm just going to make my point here again. And for that matte black look, let's raise the black. So if we raise the black, there. Do you see that? So if you focus on her shoes and her shadows. When I slowly lift this up, you can see that the blacks become more matte. And for me, this is the mood I want to go for in this photo. I want to give it that polished kind of simple and like filmy look. So that's why I would do this adjustments right here. And then the rest of the tone curve, I would play around with it, see whatever works. I think I might want to bring out the white just so I can have that shirt pop out in the photo. Yeah, so something like that would be what looks good to me. So if I turn off the point curve, whoa. Okay, I didn't expect it to change that much, but yeah, you can see how much change it makes in the photo. Yeah. So the point curve is definitely, or like tone curve. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what I told you guys, but one of these curves is always for you to explore. All these curves are essential to your photo. How I learned these, watch YouTube's online. There's a lot of people I can recommend below in the chats, and then just play around with it. I probably spent like countless hours just minutely adjusting these curves and seeing what works and what doesn't. So it's different in each photo, but always try out because you never know what you might learn. All right, so that is the live editing, a short snippet of it. I guess now we can go through the Q&A. So how should we do that? Anyone? Do I just ask? So if you want to raise your hand or something?
I can read out the questions in the chat if you
Sure,
want. Make things easy.
Yeah.
So Chris asks, what kit do you use? Any specific lens do you prefer?
Okay. So when I first started off, I bought a kit set camera thingy. So what a kit is, you get like a basic camera and a lens. So I'll actually show you right now. So the camera I use is the Canon 80D. It's really popular among vloggers such as Casey Neistat, and it's really versatile because it works well with photos as well as video. So this is the kit. If you look on my screen right now, this is the Canon 80D. The lens is an 18-135. So with this lens, there isn't much bokeh at all, mainly because the aperture, the least it can go to is 3.5. So this is what I worked with. It's quite an affordable lens to start off. And yeah, it's really handy. This is my like only camera, I would say. So it's been with me since this whole time, and it's working amazing. Specific lenses I prefer. Right now I'm using the 18-35 Sigma. It's a 1.8, so it gives a really nice bokeh in the background.
Next question. Oof, we got some questions out here. What was your favorite shoot?
That is really hard to say. There's honestly a few that I have in mind right now, but I would say every shoot is memorable in a different sense. But my most favorite shoot is honestly perhaps the one I did yesterday. So I'm not sure if you check my Instagram. If you check my stories, I shot on a rooftop with like this amazing like bomb like outfit. Honestly, such a fun experience because we were really getting some Gotham vibes in the photos. So definitely stay tuned for that. It's really fun. What I categorize as a favorite shoot would definitely be how responsive the model is, how the photos turn out. If the models and I are on a same creative level, it really makes the creative process so much more fun because you two are both trying things out. She's like, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, yeah, man, like go for it. Like do whatever you want because this is just, it's just super fun. So I would definitely say yesterday was up there. It's definitely up there.
Nice. Pranav asks, do you think 50 millimeter lens are the best for portraits? That's what they heard.
Okay. So a 50 millimeter lens, the reason people say it's good for portraits is because they get the bokeh in the background. The bokeh is basically like the blurry stuff in the background when you take a photo. It honestly depends on what you want to shoot. If you were shooting traditional portraits, okay, cool. Like bokeh definitely works super well with that. But let's say you were doing fashion portraits or you're going for something else. I would say try things out like a wider lens, like 18 to 35, like this one. Because with the 18 to 35, you can get the entire surrounding, and as well as like you can focus on outfits. So 50 millimeter lens is good for portraits in the sense that it has a nice bokeh 1.8 aperture. But if you were to go for something else, definitely try out some wider lens. Like this one. This one is a wide one and it's bokeh-ish. So keep this one in mind.
Okay, great. Lisa asks, when you calculate your costs, do you estimate the time it will take for editing, right?
Okay. I got you. So yeah, when I price photography, I'm a strong believer in not pricing by the hour. This is because for the sake of the client, they don't know how much time you're spending, right? So you can honestly BS an hour, like, oh, I spent like 10 hours editing this photo. I honestly think that's not logical. What I do is I price it by, let's say, packages. So I'll give you 3 photos. It'll take around like 1.5 hours of shooting, and then 3 outfits, and then each outfit you'll get like 10 photos. So essentially it'll be 30 photos for that package. And then when you first start pricing, I would say, yeah, 20% below what other people are doing. And then if people aren't buying your stuff or like hiring you, lower the price. Lower the price until 50% of the time people are hiring you for that price. So once that 50% ranges goes up to like 70 or 80%, that's the point where you need to say, okay, I can raise my price. Raise it up to a point where, again, 50% people are hiring you. That's like threshold I like to base my pricing off on, because it shows that, okay, some people understand kind of art we're doing, and some people are like, okay, they don't want to spend that much. Fine, leave it to be. They can find someone cheaper, but this is the pricing that I would this is the pricing strategy I would go for.
Beautiful. People are asking about some of the YouTubers you mentioned.
Okay. How about I'll definitely send you guys, or I post in the Facebook event of like a list of stuff I will recommend you guys, because and I have to go through them one by one. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Don't worry about it. You mentioned doing different color combos in editing. Do you have any tips on maintaining good skin tones? That's Saming.
Good skin tones, I would definitely say do it in camera. So when you're shooting, there's something called white balance, and you want to maintain that white balance throughout the shoot. So once you have that and you edit a singular photo, you can copy that skin tone color to every other photo. I think the skin tone precisely depends, because one of my favorite photographers, all his photos, like their models are like super yellow, super orange, but it works because that's the kind of mood and that's his style. So I would definitely say focus on prioritizing a good skin tone in the shot, and then when you're editing, you can do whatever you want there. Yeah.
Nice. Martin asks, how much have you been shooting throughout COVID? Have you found it tough to set up shoots?
Yeah, COVID is it's a pain in the ass. I'm currently in Thailand right now, and our second wave is, I don't know if it's dying, it's slowly dying down. So I've definitely been shooting, but not as often, sadly. But when I'm shooting, I always like to maintain like a safe distance from the model as well as other people around the area, just so that we are keeping like preventing COVID, and always have your mask on and stuff. Yeah, definitely tough to set up shoots, but working on it.
Nice, nice. Tamara asks, what is your preferred f-stop for indoor portraits?
Okay, indoor portraits, as in studio portraits, I'm assuming, or just like indoor stuff? Okay, indoor stuff. Awesome. So, indoor stuff, this is hard for me to say because f-stop, it changes all the time. I usually like to go the lowest possible. So for my kit lens here, it'll be 3.5. And the reason I'm going the lowest possible is because I let more light into the camera. That way I don't have to adjust my ISO or bump it up super high. I always like to have the most brightness possible, so when I'm editing, it's a lot easier. Yep.
So again, another YouTuber recommendation. And I guess the last question is from Philip. How do you like to compose your models?
Oh wait, I think we missed. I see a question here. Give me a second. Let me just read that. I've heard a lot of portrait photographers like 85 millimeter. This is interesting to see. Oh, YouTube. Okay, okay. Philip,
Yeah.
how do you like to compose your models? Sorry, what do you mean by compose? Like pose them? Like direct them?
I think it might be the outfits. Not too sure. We'll let Philip get back to us
Okay,
on that one.
sure, for sure.
But Irvin just has a quick question about what exactly is a mood board
For sure.
that you mentioned in the presentation.
So a mood board is basically a collection of inspiration of photos that you want to make happen in a shoot. So like the one I showed you earlier, let's go back to that. I'm gonna share my screen. One sec. So it's basically just a collections of photos that you refer back to during the shoot or whenever. Um, it's just a place for inspiration to as the kind of photos you want to take. So for example, this beach photo shoot, all these photos I definitely want to recreate. And that's essentially what a mood board is. It's a place for inspiration, for collecting all your creative ideas so that you can refer back to when you're looking to shoot something. Mhm.
Fantastic. And then, so what Philip meant was, how do you pose your models?
Okay, okay. Let me see. So when you're posing a model, definitely, um, let me see, because it varies. Each model has a pose that they really kill. So what I always start off is definitely, I shoot like a wide shot first, so that you don't want to start off a portrait shoot and then you're like getting up close in their face, like 2 millimeters from their nose. It's super intimidating. I like to start off wide shots, like have their whole body. So it's like, okay, we're slowly easing into it. As to posing, I refer back to the mood boards. I tell them to copy this pose, and then from that pose, it's a benchmark, and I tell them to like kind of like, okay, try something else. Try putting your hand on your head, put it on your waist, give it more angles. Angles work really well when you're posing with models. So a pose that I like to do often is have their hands above their head. I don't know if you can see me right now, but I'm gonna it's basically like this, yeah. So you're holding your hand above your head, and it's like it gives the angles here. You have a lot of angles. So what I'm focusing on when I'm posing these people is to give a lot of different angles. It can be weird. Sometimes it turns out well. There's another way. It's also to like kind of like touch yourself, not like a like weird way, but definitely in an artistic way. So let's say I were to touch my face, kind of like this, right? Like this, or let's say to touch my shoulder or my arms, you grab your arms kind of like this. So play around with that, like touch yourself and create curves and angles. Yeah.
Beautiful. Do any tips on the compositions of the model? Like how much headroom do you leave?
Yeah. Sorry, what?
That how much headroom do you leave? For example, like
Uh,
that's Siming asking.
how much headroom do I leave?
Yeah.
Uh, this again depends on the situation. There's never in photography. There's never like, okay, you have to leave 25 millimeter of headroom. Is that what you mean? Like here, the headroom? Yeah. There's never like a pinpoint set of measurements you want to have in a photo. Whenever you're taking photos, it depends on what you're going for. It's always the mood and the tone and the outfit. So if she has a hat, definitely cover that hat. Make sure you get that hat in the photo as well. And it really just depends. Yeah.
And I think, oh, okay, we got Ankush, big fan. Do you have any locations, favorite locations in Vancouver?
Uh, Vancouver is a beautiful city. Wow, it's really hard, but here's what I do. Because we're mostly living on UBC, or we all go to UBC, a beautiful place to shoot at UBC is definitely I don't know what that building is called. I think it's like the film building. It's like green, right? It's like next to ponds. It's like a green area. It's a green building. Oh, beautiful place to shoot. Mainly because like the colors like it works really well with like a plain white or black outfit. That's one place I would go to. A lot of people shoot at Wreck Beach. That place, honestly, I haven't done an actual photo shoot there just because it's like cold, right? It's really cold and there's a lot of people there as well. So it's hard to work with that situation. Oh, it's called BC Bindings or Bindings. Okay, that's dope. And another place I like to shoot is life building. So one of my photos is shot in the life building, the yellow stairs. Well, that is really magnificent as well because I feel like that area just it's not something you see every day, and to have that on campus is definitely a plus. Yeah, awesome. Anything else?
There was actually, I think, the question for the model, or
Okay.
how to pose your models. I think we actually do have a model in the crowd.
Ooh.
Ryan, if you want to maybe comment on your perspective on how to pose as a model.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sweet. Hi, first of all, and Sean, awesome. Thank you so much. It was really interesting to see the whole portrait photography thing from the photographer's perspective. I was really curious. I think all of it really comes down to just getting to know your model. You have no idea how much it helps just talking to your model first. So when I did my first shoot, I still think my first shoot was the best shoot I ever had, and I was very nervous. And it's just because I got along very well with my photographer and he decided to sit down with me, get to know me. And we spent a good like hour just talking. And yes, he showed me a bunch of like I forgot the term for it, but like, yes, boards on Pinterest with a bunch of suggestions for things that I could wear, moods of the shoots that he likes to do, as well as poses. And then it was very awkward at the start. And eventually I just kind of got into it after he showed me pictures of how good they were turning out. I had no idea what they would look like. And then when he showed me how cool they looked, I was like, holy shit, I feel awesome. And the confidence just came from there, and still one of my best shoots I've ever had.
100%. I agree with you 100%. Definitely work with understanding the model. I love where you're coming from. Can I ask how did he get to know you? Like, what did you guys have? Grab a coffee or?
Yeah. So it was back in India, and we went to an abandoned car part factory. And so the whole place was just destroyed. There was glass everywhere, and it was a long drive out. So I met him. He messaged me on Instagram, and I actually got to know him while we were walking to another person's house. He was going to get a dog for the shoot, so there was a German Shepherd. And while we were going over to that person's house, we got to know each other. And then when we spoke to him, he said he'd bring the dog along. And then the next day we went on the shoot. It was like a 2-hour journey where we got to know each other more.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to shoot with this German Shepherd. It was awesome.
Yo, you need to send me that photo. What the heck?
I'll send you them.
That's
It's
crazy.
a long time ago.
Awesome. Yeah, man. I'll definitely message me after this workshop. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
And if anyone has any other questions about like from a model's perspective, please just feel free to ask me.
Awesome. I'm just gonna look through the chat again. I hear a lot about using other lines.
Yeah, I think maybe if you want to comment on that, Sean, like rule of thirds.
Okay. When you first start off, I like to follow the rules. Yeah, everyone loves to follow the rules. It's a good place to get good photos that can guarantee you something that works. Yeah. Well, once you progress throughout your photography journey, that's when you need to distinguish yourself from like an amateur photographer. And a way that I learned all these like compositions is looking through inspiration, constantly just filling my mind with photos that look good. So obviously you're always on Instagram, right? I don't know how much time I spend on Instagram, but I always just look through like other photographers like photos, and you could see each one of these photographers have a distinct way of composing their photos. And what you want to take away from this is to save these shots, and then so when you're shooting, refer back to it, try that out. And once you try it out, eventually it's gonna become in your system. It's gonna come natural to you. So always just keep these keep these creative ideas flowing in your mind so that when you're shooting, it can pop right up. It's not necessarily like, okay, I need to follow like the golden ratio or like the rule of thirds. Okay, follow that at first, but once you progress through becoming a more advanced photographer, you need to look beyond the rules. You got to break it. So that's definitely what I recommend you. Yeah, awesome. You mentioned a lot about shoots with natural light. So what time? Okay. So time of the shoot, everyone loves to shoot during golden hour. So sunrise, sunset, I think that is pretty safe bet on the time of the day. But speaking of that, it's also good to shoot whenever, because the time of the day and the sunlight poses as an obstacle to you. And with that restriction, you start to explore different ways of photography. So let's say noontime. Noontime is when the sun is like straight above your head, right? So you're gonna have like dark shadows under your eyes. You're gonna have eye bags basically. So if you're planning to shoot at noon, something I would try out is to lay the model on the ground. So she can be laying and facing straight up into the sky. And that way you can still have a lit up face, but it's in a different axis. It's like the Z axis or something. I don't know. But it's always nice to explore these different areas, and don't let the time of the day stop you from shooting. I went shooting like midnight, noon, when I first woke up. Like it's there. The light is there, so you are there, right? So wherever there's light, you better be shooting. Yeah. Awesome sauce. Anything else?
If there's any last minute questions before we wrap things up. Oh, we got one more from Shimin. Is there a place where you can get a good criticism from? Ooh, what a great question.
That is a good question. That's scary. Good criticism. For me, dealing with criticism is hard. I am my own biggest critic. Like, not gonna lie, like looking back at my old photos, I criticize it. I'm like, wow, like why would you ever shoot that? But at that time, I thought it was really good. In terms of having it criticized by other photographers or people, that is really hard for me to understand, because everyone is unique in their style, right? So for another photographer to criticize your work, um, it's like they're putting their fingerprint on your photo. I think at first, when you're first starting off, okay, there's some basics you can nail down, like maybe you're overexposing, or maybe you can't really see this part of the leg or something like that. But once you develop into a more advanced photographer, I think you have to understand yourself better. To understand yourself better, to see what works and what doesn't, and it's developing your own style that's the most important part. I ask friends, but they'll only tell you. Yeah, they always tell you you're doing good. You need to find those friends that will shit on you no matter what. Like, those are like, for me, that's my sister. Everything I do, like to this day, she's like, this is bad. I'm like, bro, like I can never like satisfy like her creativity level. It's just crazy. And I do respect my sister a lot, because she's also a really creative person. So I take the criticism for her. I think what I'm getting across is that take criticism for people who you believe have the right to criticize you. So I would not take criticism from like let's say my worst enemy, like they don't understand photography, like a McDonald's employee. I don't know if they understand photography, but I wouldn't take it from a stranger. But let's say I take it from my good friend like Ankush. He's an amazing photographer and part of UBC Photosoc. So I would listen. I was like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I might try that out. So definitely see where this criticism is coming from, and say and take it with a pinch of salt. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. With an art background, that's perfect. Yeah. I'm sure she has a lot to say. A lot to say.
Great. Well, I think maybe we start wrapping things up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, reach out to Sean. We will link Sean's Insta in the chat, so feel free to hit him up, ask him more questions. But thank you so much, Sean, for presenting. To everyone that came out today, it truly was a pleasure having you, and thank you so much for listening. We hope after today you check out Sean's work and you also check out what our club has to offer. As I mentioned before, all our services are currently open and memberships are available. So all this information is on our website. Just go check it out. We hope to see you again and have an amazing night.
Pleasure. Thank you much for coming.
That's
It
great.
really means a lot. It really means a lot. Thank you.